Today we're going to unpack a really critical argument about the future of Iran. It's a perspective that really makes you question what we think we know about revolution, about inherited power, and, well, what freedom actually is. And just to be clear, everything we're about to explore comes directly from the source material we're analyzing.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This one question. It's basically the key to this entire argument. It's asking us to look past the faces, beyond just the leaders, and really question the entire system of power itself. So, is it really enough to just change the person sitting on top?
And you see, right away, the source material throws a pretty provocative claim at us. It's basically arguing that what we might think is a people's revolution is actually something else entirely. It's a smokescreen, hiding what's really just a struggle between different elite groups, a power grab happening behind the scenes.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this argument, we have to go back in time a bit. The source is pretty clear on this. Before we can even begin to talk about the son, Reza Pahlavi, we first have to understand the legacy of his father, the Shah. And this right here, this is the starting point for the entire critique. It's all about how the source material frames the Shah. He's not presented as some kind of benevolent king, but as a dictator. And that one distinction, well, it's the foundation for everything that follows.
Just think about that quote for a second. The source argues that this reveals a very specific kind of psychology, right? This is not the language you hear from a public servant, someone who feels accountable to the people. No, this is presented as the mindset of a ruler who genuinely believes their power comes from some kind of divine, untouchable, mystical force.
And this really lays out the core conflict, On one hand, you've got this idea of divine entitlement, the belief that power is your birthright, that it's justified by mystical visions. And on the other hand, you have the basic principle of democracy. Power is given by the people, and leaders have to answer for it. The source is saying these two things just cannot coexist. They're fundamentally at odds.
So the source gives this whole concept a name, authoritarian mysticism. And the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's a worldview that places the ruler above the people, not as their servant. A leader in this mindset doesn't answer to the citizens, they answer to the heavens.
All right, so now the critique starts to zoom out. It moves beyond just one family's legacy and starts to make a much broader argument. It's really a critique of the whole idea of foreign-backed regime change, and it uses what's happening in Iran as a modern-day case study.
The source is incredibly direct on this point. It argues that if you look at the basic credentials of a democratic leader, well, Reza Pahlavi doesn't have them. There's no election, no democratic mandate, no constitution he represents, and, according to this argument, no popular movement inside Iran that he's leading. It's just a claim based on who his father was.
And the source uses some really powerful language to describe this. Monarchy without a crown, dictatorship without a throne. What it's suggesting is that you can get rid of the official titles, the fancy hats, the whole shebang, but the underlying structure of power, that stays the same. The argument is, if you still have a system of unelected, unaccountable rule, then you haven't really changed anything at all.
This brings up another really important layer to the whole critique. The source starts asking, okay, who would a potential new leader actually answer to? Would they be accountable to the people of Iran, looking out for their needs? Or would they be answering to foreign interests, with their own geopolitical goals?
And to support this argument, the source says, hey, just look at recent history. It points to this pattern. In countries like Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, the promise was always so bright. Freedom, democracy. But the reality, according to this text, was something very, very different. Chaos, collapse, and total failure. These examples are meant to be a huge warning sign.
So, the takeaway from the source is that this model of regime change doesn't actually lead to freedom. Instead, it leads to a cascade of absolute disasters. We're talking power vacuums, foreign control, civil wars, proxy wars, economic collapse, the whole nine yards. It's presented as a recipe for creating failed states, not stable democracies.
But after all that heavy critique, the source doesn't just leave us hanging with the problems. It actually shifts gears and starts to lay out what it considers to be a genuine path forward, a sort of blueprint for what real, meaningful change is supposed to look like.
And the first step, according to the source, is knowing what not to do. It says real change means you have to completely abandon this idea of looking for a savior. It doesn't matter if it's a prince coming back to claim a throne or some new leader handpicked by the West. That's not the answer.
So what is the answer? Well, the source points to all of this. And notice something really important here. Not a single one of these things is about a person. It's all about the system.
It's about the hard, slow, maybe even boring work of building the actual machinery of a democracy. We're talking about institutions, accountability, constitutions, real elections, the rule of law.
And really, that's the core message here. The source argues that our obsession with finding the right person, the perfect savior, is a total trap. The goal isn't to find one good ruler. The goal is to build a good system, a system that's strong enough to hold any ruler accountable, good or bad.
And this line really just ties a bow on the whole argument. It connects the past, the legacy of the Shah, directly to the present. The argument is simple. Anytime power is inherited, not earned through the consent of the people, freedom is what gets lost in the bargain.
And so, we're left with this one last big question that the source wants us to think about. Based on all the history it lays out, you have to wonder, when foreign interests get to pick a country's rulers, are they actually liberating that nation, or are they just kicking off the first step of its collapse?